from America's finest city. This is Real Talk San Diego on ESPN 1700.
What's happening, gang? You are back live in the Secret Stash. I'm your host, Jesse Ibañez, co-founder of the Greenhouse Group, right down here in the heart of San Diego, helping folks move into and out of homes and moving those people with purpose. That's what we do. But in the studio live today, ESPN Radio 1700 for the Stash. We got you for the next 2 hours. We're going to be talking about some cool local people, bringing them in the office, bring them in the studio here, sit them down at the table, and discuss some of the cool local things that they're doing and the impact they're making around our communities. And hopefully track down a couple stories in the process to make sure that we accomplish our purpose of leaving you better than how we found you today in the studio, my man, Matthew Bergman. Now, I'm going to set this up a little bit, Matt, because, you know, people, when they think about cryotherapy, they probably think about like dead people being preserved, or I don't even know what else, or maybe they don't even know how to pronounce the thing like I didn't even know, calling it like chiropractic, whatever it is. But this is a really exciting field. It's a really exciting movement of consciousness, and this is going to be a really exciting conversation we're going to have today. So my man, Matthew, thank you so much for coming in the studio with the Stash today, baby.
Oh, thanks, Jesse. It's great to be here.
Excited to have you. Now, Matthew is the founder, owner of Chiltonic.com. It's C-H-I-L, only one L, and then tonic, Tonic.com, out of Encinitas. Now, Matthew, I couldn't do this conversation the justice it deserves. So please, why don't you do us all a solid, introduce yourself, and then let us know what in the world that is.
Well, thanks, Jesse. You got it right. My name is Matthew Bergman. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I mean, it is new to us, I suppose, but it's not new to the world.
Well said.
Yeah, we know that cryotherapy has been around since 1978. It was developed by Dr. Yamaguchi in Japan, and it was originally used...
Only 1978. I'm surprised to hear that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, cold's been around for a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
But no, it was developed for rheumatoid arthritis, in fact, originally, and then they quickly found that it was really good for all kinds of autoimmune diseases. So MS, lupus...
no one has lupus.
fibromyalgia.
That's not a thing. Lupus is not really a thing.
I think it is. I've heard of it. Now, we've actually had some people in with lupus, in fact. So
no, I'm not. I'm trying not to joke about that. I know someone, a friend who has that, by the way. So,
but indeed, the whole thing is the use of cold, right? So everybody's familiar with ice baths. I'm sure you've got lots of athletes that have come in that you've talked to. Ice baths are I don't know, sometimes a necessary evil, right? But have you done one, Jesse?
I feel like a lot of people know what ice baths are, and they've seen it. I'm not so sure a lot of people have actually partaken, though, because that is about as close to medieval torture as we have in present-day life.
Well, that's what they seem to think. That's what I've been told. I don't want to do it. I'm much more a fan of the cryotherapy. It's a pretty simple process. We just take liquid nitrogen. We fill a chamber up to your neck with that liquid nitrogen. It gets very, very cold, and it quickly stimulates the cold response. So
now I'm just gonna reveal a little something right now. And by the way, if you're catching this on the YouTube rebroadcast over at secretstashradio.com, I'm going to roll the clip right now of me actually doing this so you know what in the world that is. And if you're catching us live right now, go check that out. We'll probably have that video up in the next 24 hours. But when he says he's going to put you into a chamber up to your neck, he's not lying. Now, here's the thing that's cool about it, though, pardon the pun, is that you're not being touched by anything. And that is such an underserved element of the process, because I'm one of those pansy guys who doesn't even like the cold water. And we're here in Southern California. Like, it doesn't even get that cold, you know, but I got to at least have a spring bob on if I'm going out in the waves. And so you could imagine my trepidation when I thought about that. But there's a very different experience from being submerged in water, where it's touching your skin, versus just having the liquid nitrogen, right?
That's right.
Touching it more as an air without the density and the weight. It's a totally different experience. You get all the benefit with like a fraction of the discomfort.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's completely dry. I mean, that's the thing that people don't quite understand. Am I going to get wet? How long am I going to stay cold? It happens very quickly, and your brain knows that it's so cold. unlike an ice bath where the blood expresses to the tissue first to protect it, the brain says, wow, it is incredibly cold. We'll get you close to 200 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And because it's such a short duration, because it only affects the skin and it only affects it to the tune of about a 0.5 millimeter penetration, you never have any risk of hypothermia, you never have any risk of tissue damage. But what it does is it creates vasoconstriction. That vasoconstriction brings all the blood to your core, where it circulates in a smaller loop, gets highly oxygenated. It also reduces inflammatory proteins.
And this is something I want to riff on right now because, in preparation for going and doing it myself and hearing you talk a little bit more about it in depth, intelligently, this concept of inflammation, I think, has got to be chief on the to-do list, so to speak, of folks that are going to be seeking you out, right? And by the way, if that's you, go to chiltonic.com because your spot's right up in Encinitas, and the element that I think, for me anyway, I'll speak from personal example, which was most applicable, is that when I go work out, now granted, I'm no spring buck anymore, okay? So my recovery time is abhorrent. It's like 24 hours is nothing anymore. It's like I need a 48 minimum to just feel back to relative normality. So when you go and you get an intense workout in, what's happening technically when I go in the cryo afterwards that's helping me rehabilitate 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times as fast?
That's a great question. In fact, one of the things that'll happen is you get what's considered delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. And that's that feeling of pain you get afterwards. Obviously, you've pulled the muscles, you've stretched them, you've done the micro tears, and you've built up some of that lactic acid. Well, when we get all that blood to pool into the core, when it gets released, you have severe vasodilation. So you get a flush, you get a lactic flush, you get rid of that lactic acid. It also highly oxygenates the muscles, and it reduces the inflammation. So that reduces the pain. And reducing the pain really is what we're all about. Reducing that inflammation is, as you said, is key to the process.
Yeah. Matthew Bergman, owner of Chiltonic at chiltonic.com. That concept, though, is easy to explain in theory. I guess it's easy to kind of just place over on the side while we continue to ruminate inside this. But you all know what that's like. Have you ever gone on like a run and totally overdid it? Like usually New Year's Day or the week thereafter, everybody gets all super excited about their resolutions. And then you stretch it a little further than you should because it feels good. And then the next morning you're like, wow, I don't feel too good. And then 48 hours after, you can't even get out of bed. That's DOMS, right? So what I'm hearing you say is that physical feeling has to do with the content of lactic acid inside that muscle. And so the vasoconstriction basically pulls the blood out, and then it flushes it back in like someone dropped the hatch on the dam, and then wipes out all the lactic acid. So that's the feeling of relief that we're getting.
Yeah, in fact, I think you probably felt that warmth radiating through your body when you got out. It happens very quickly. I mean, it's almost instantaneous. As soon as you get out, we want to try to drop that skin temp by about 30 degrees. By the time you're standing, in front of that machine, it's already starting to warm up. And that's that blood flow. And that's, you can really feel it. And we have people that'll walk in with, for example, we like it when guys go out and they do leg day because they know exactly how they're going to feel. And one of our neighbors was a weightlifter. He worked at the store 2 doors down, and he was very, very skeptical, very cynical, very skeptical. And we just said, look, we're going to get you in for free. It's going to be a fantastic experience. He couldn't buy into it. So look, Dave, go out, leg day, the following day come in. So sure enough, he comes in, finally rope him in. And Gretchen, my wife, was good enough to do that, and she's smarter in that way, right?
Yeah.
The soft
You married
sell.
up.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I certainly did. Yes. There's no doubt about that.
Too bad you're not listening right now.
No, she probably isn't. No, she's too busy. But no, to tell you the truth, Dave got in. He got cold, and because he's so lean, he got cold pretty quickly. But he got out, got dressed, got in front, and kept sitting down and standing up on the couch, just sitting, standing, and he rubbing his legs, and they don't hurt. So we told you. I mean, we told you it was going to reduce that inflammation and make that feel better. It's remarkable when you see it, and certainly when you feel it. It's, people just can't believe it's actually happened.
Well, and what I heard you say, which I think is a crystallizing thought on this, because I mean, I got you in the studio today, Matt, because I wanted to kind of put a frame around this, because this is something that I've heard Tony Robbins talk about. He's almost kind of like, you put a face to the concept. He swears by it. He's even got one in his basement of his house. He does it every morning as part of his morning ritual. You kind of catch this up on the radar. It kind of trickled into my reticular activator, and I'm noticing little news blurbs about it and stuff like that. And I just feel like a lot of people like myself that have this heuristic that it's going to be really cold, uncomfortable, and it's going to suck. Like that thought, like that fear of not. And so I wanted to get you in, because the truth is that what cryo is really about is about quality of life. And over the course of the next, 45, 50 minutes here, I'd love to sort of take that concept and unravel it a little bit. Like, I know reducing inflammation is a big one. And if an average typical person is going to try to attempt to do that, they basically got two options. Well, let's say three. Number one is they dip themselves in a cold bath. That's about as fun as doing dentistry on yourself. Okay, that's probably the most popular way that sadists do. Try to get the recovery time. You can take over-the-counter stuff, and I actually want to get into that a little bit later, because that's more of a rabbit hole. We can talk about the dangers of that are now beginning to surface. Or you can cryo. And if you look at it like a bath, it's gonna take you like 3 hours, if not the rest of the day, to recover from that. Like, you never really get your core body temperature back up. Cryo, I was out and back in my car and feeling exactly the way that I walked in a matter of about 10 minutes.
Oh, come on. You didn't feel exactly the same way, did you?
Well, sure. Obviously feeling better, but that concept of the cold element, right? Like, I was right back to my normal body temperature, rolling back and to regain my day.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have, depending upon the physiology, we'll have people, they'll get dressed, they'll get back into the front to pay for their first session. They already have sweat on their brow.
Yeah.
And that's just a function of the metabolic spike.
Yeah, I love that thought. So, gang, that's why we got him in the stash. Matthew bringing it. Matthew Bergman, owner of Chiltonic.com. By the way, you can catch him up in Encinitas and schedule your first one. And we're going to, if you hang out till the end of our broadcast today, we're going to talk about what Matthew's willing to leave in the stash for you to make sure that it's irresistible to get your first session. I'll leave that as a little tease. And also, we're going to be streaming this live right now on the Meerkat app. So if you go over to Meerkat and then follow us on Twitter at followthestash.com. I'm sorry, follow the stash at Twitter. That's our handle. You can go ahead and ask Matthew any question live in studio right now. And Matthew, I've got some questions for you coming up, brother. We're going to talk about how in the world you can recover faster. I know we kind of tickled on a little bit. We're going to get deep right now. Going to get into some science with you. Throw you in, not the hot seat, it's the cold seat today. Matthew Bergman, owner of Chiltonic. You're in the stash. I'll be right back. Real Talk Radio San Diego.